Hi, everybody. Great to be here. And thanks, Anyo. That was really, really fantastic to hear. And, there were lots of, I was reminiscing as you were speaking about being back at the stage you're at with our campaign in Indi and admiring your tenacity about getting into it and doing all the work, because it is a lot of work. There's a lot of work involved in getting a campaign up and running. And I guess tonight I'll be coming at this from a slightly, post-campaign angle, as opposed to your pre-campaign angle. And so we've got a few runs on the board, I guess, and we can talk about what we have done in relation to Indi, which has been hugely fun and incredible to be a part of. So what I thought I would do is I've sort of got just a pretty random display of some images, and I'm just going to talk a bit about how people engage with the brand, and what it kind of came to mean to people. And you'll probably, that it's obviously from my perspective, that other people will tell it differently. So yeah, look, just going back to what you were saying to start with there, Jill, that is the Oxley Hall, which you can see behind me there. I do live in Oxley, and that's as it was lit up, I think the night of the first celebration after Kathy was declared the member for Indi, after a long sort of week of waiting to hear. We had probably the most amazing party there I've ever, I think others that were there would agree, 800 people. It was put together in a couple of days, and it was just a sea of orange and a sea of fun. So we often refer to the Oxley Hall as our spiritual home. We've had quite a few events there, and it's become, we're all a bit emotionally attached to place here in Indi, and that's one of the locations within this big place of Indi that we all really connect with, I think. But going on to, I'm going to put some slides on. I'm going to try, hopefully I can share them. And I'll just speak while I'm showing slides. I'm going to warn people that what I'm saying may not necessarily connect directly with one of the slides. I wanted to roll through some imagery so that people got to see a lot.
Great.
So yeah, hopefully that will make sense as we go through, but let's just see if I can start. And as I was preparing a few things for this tonight, I was flicking through stuff, and I came across this, I'm going to start with this quote from Barry Cassidy from 2013, which, when Jill contacted me and you were talking about fun, he talks about the fun in Indi in this quote, and it's for those people that are in the audience tonight and beginning the journey, it'll probably resonate. So let's see if I can share it. Yep. Is that visible to people?
It is. I can see it.
Okay, so just quickly, Barry said it just might catch on, this whole independent thing back then. And it surely serves as a warning to the occupants of safe seats everywhere on both sides of politics. Work the turf, no matter how safe the seat. If you don't, another McGowan might be just around the corner. Having a vote that counts for nothing is no fun. Finding a way to make it count has been a lot of fun for the Voice for Indi, and it just might catch on. I just thought that was kind of, fairly prophetic from Barry back then, and it certainly has caught on. So on to the branding. So I think, sorry, just let me find myself around this screen again. There's always a few little things to navigate. Okay. So I think you will see there.
We still have Barry's quote up, Amanda.
Okay, yep, sorry. Multitasking. I've got 3 screens on the go here. I'll tell you what, it's good brain gym. Okay, that's just a general thing. But basically, I guess I just wanted to talk about how, branding and marketing and communication, are so critical to political campaigns. And the use of colour is really important, and symbols and slogans and all the things that we associate with branding are really important in attracting volunteers, and I think empowering them to participate and develop their sense of agency in different and safe ways. And I don't think we can underestimate that. And we do know that voting is influenced by how a political brand is perceived, and that's become even more the case in the 24-hour news cycle, because we get bombarded with things, and we just know there's so much out there that you've got to compete with when you're trying to establish a brand, and there's a lot to take in during an election campaign, and voters are often looking for ways to quickly filter information and to find an intuitive way to decide who to vote for. So as sad as that is, some people do vote just on how they feel, not on what the issues are, and so it's an important thing to consider. And I guess in Indi, I think we managed to make our brand something that people felt connected to and really embraced, because they felt that the values were embedded in the brand that they relate to. And we all talk about values. We all know about kitchen table conversations and how our communities so strongly communicate to us what the values are and how important they are. And I think being able to interlock that with your brand is critical. And so I guess in Indi, again, we had to start from scratch, and we didn't have the advantage of a party brand behind us. Look, there's you could argue that that's not an advantage, having a party brand, because of the brand values that are associated with some parties now. But when Kathy was starting out, I'm talking about you, Kathy. Sorry, I hope that's okay. Kathy was really well known in our community with her community work, but we had to really raise her profile, because the battle to win the seat was going to be huge. So we had to build a personality around our brand, and we had to differentiate from the party brand. So the reason that orange was chosen was because we couldn't go green or red or blue or the traditional colours, and orange was. I have told this story a few times. There was an all-night event where we were getting the first kitchen table report organised, and we only had a few days to do it. I had to get to the printers, all of that stuff, and I think the cover of that first report was there was a big discussion. Some of you may remember it, about which colour we would use, and orange didn't go down so well initially with the crew, because it was everyone said it's a bit too out there, a bit too bold. So the first report was done in a sort of dull brown orange, really, and we then subsequently wound that up and made it more vibrant. But that sort of speaks to the fact that what we were doing was new. We were exploring what people would engage with, and was orange going to be too scary for people? Was it going to say the wrong thing? As it turns out, it didn't. But there were some tentative steps towards that in the beginning, and I think orange is a good colour for us, and it has become sort of synonymous with Indi, and I guess, for those of us interested in the colour theory, it represents confidence and warmth and joy and enthusiasm, and it's an optimistic, uplifting colour. And these all seemed like perfect associations for a burgeoning community movement like we had back then. So that's how the orange was born. We designed all of our advertising and merchandise for this campaign, and it was all underpinned by a positive approach and a genuine commitment to the values that we've just spoken about. No one was interested in negative, aggressive messaging. We were interested in engaging the community and creating choice. And I think we were very successful in doing that. People just very quickly started enjoying themselves when they started to get involved with the campaign. And my view on that, and I think, Jill, you're going to ask us about this a little bit further down the track, aren't you? But,
Yep.
you know, I think it was just that instant thing that, wow, there's an alternative, and I can see it. I can see the alternative. It's out there, and it's accessible. I can engage with it, and people very quickly started to sense that possibility of change that was associated with what they were seeing around them in relation to this, our movement in Indi. So it took courage for people to get involved, but they relished the freedom of getting creative and expressing their support. So I'm going to just show you a few of the fun things that happened. You know, you've probably seen some of these, but this is stuff parties would never do. They wouldn't dress their dogs in orange T-shirts, and they wouldn't dress sheep in orange T-shirts and take them to farmers, to cattle sales so that they could start a conversation. And you might see there in the middle our wonderful Jenny Anderson, who's a legendary character here in Indi, who was the person that I think Jenny be okay in me saying she was a Liberal voter, but this campaign came along and she liked what she saw and got heavily involved. She was fairly disillusioned with how things were, and you know, it looks like fun. It looks like, you know, it's a bit daggy. We've got some sheep in T-shirts. It's simple in one way, but in fact, it's a really sophisticated strategy, believe it or not, because by taking those sheep to stock, cattle sales, where there were a lot of traditional voters, conservative farmers that are out there. Not all farmers are conservative. I'm not saying that, but there's a lot of this sort of whole idea of an independent was new to a lot of people, and not always initially easy to have a conversation about. But Jenny broke down so many barriers by coming up with that creative way. Her sheep were very tame and pets, and they were more than happy. And so a lot of conversations were started that way. And I think that's how people use their pets as well. It was fun. There's something just innately funny about and quirky about seeing an animal in a T-shirt. And it was a big theme here in Indi. There's a few other things here. I'll just flick through. It was very grassroots, and some of you will probably recognise Dennis on the left there. We had our own Jake and Elwood during the first campaign, and that was fun. There was lots of engagement through those sorts of fun, unusual and quirky mechanisms. So these guys would just jump in that old Land Rover and drive around towns. They'd say things through the megaphone, have a bit of fun, and if nothing else, people noticed it, and it started people wondering what was going on and talking about it. So, and you can see that that sort of bred, led to different versions of the same theme. There was a mini-me Blues Brothers van, you can see there, and down below that's Kathy and Sal Kimber, our sort of initial campaign musician, using the Blues Brothers van as a stage for singing the theme, the campaign song. So that would drive around, and people would see it and hear it, and it was really powerful. There's Kathy, and she's holding there a little biscuit in the shape of a train, which you might see. And again, that's a biscuit in one sense, but it's actually the significance of it being a train is because the train was an issue. It was an issue that was identified, and people were not happy with how our train lines were operating. And so it's clever. It's clever to actually make a train biscuit, make it fun, make it welcoming. Offer somebody a biscuit, you have a conversation, and that's how it all goes. And our volunteers were just endlessly creative in doing this sort of thing. And food was a big theme, and it is something that we're very proud of here in Indi. We have social. All of our events were highly social, and the wonderful warmth and country hospitality came through the whole way, every time. So the tables were laden with food, and often people would go that extra mile and create food with an orange theme or a branded theme, which was fun. But again, it's reinforcing the brand. Some things here. This was something that happened again in the 2013 campaign. So I think some of the young people involved thought about ways that they can engage their peers, and so they did there was a whole Cats for Kathy campaign, which was, to some of the probably some of the older voters in the community probably wondered what it was all about, but it spoke to that demographic really well, and it was, clever and fun. So I guess I think what we can sort of start to sense from this is that it's important to realise that a brand is tangible, so what you see, but it's also intangible, and that's the bit that how does it make you feel, and both these elements need to be considered strategically when you're developing your brand. As I was saying before, it did take courage for people to get involved, and I think the thing that was good about this sort of grassroots development of creative expression was that people could choose to express their, I call it the coming out politically, actually. So they would, they might just wear some orange earrings to work, or they might just wear an orange scarf, or something really simple. We developed some badges. So if you weren't confident about wearing a bright orange T-shirt, you might just wear a little badge to the supermarket, and that would be another mechanism, and people would stop and chat to you about this badge, and you could again start a conversation. So I think we developed a whole range of those little ways to get people talking. And if we think about it, this whole movement goes back to talking and having conversations, and making it okay to talk about politics. So some people even just wore lipstick or nail polish, and it became like a secret, not a very secret code, but a code. And what it did was help you identify your tribe. So you could see someone else with something orange, and you could say, you're one of us. And not that we were trying to set up a them and us thing, but it just gave people confidence to talk to each other. And they'd wink and a nod, and you've got some orange on. Okay, we can have it. It's safe. It's safe to have a chat to you about this stuff. So we had animals, we had babies in all sorts of orange gear, we had vehicles adorned, we had properties draped in bunting, we had orange flowers in gardens, people made them and grew them. We had core flutes, obviously, once the election was called. Pumpkin soup was standard fare, orange, of course. Quilts were lovingly created and sewn by our wonderful Indi makers, and including one that I think is probably still in the office in Canberra, Kathy, is it? The Indi quilt, which is just a beautiful piece of work made with so much love, really, and it's about Indi. It's very symbolic of all the positivity that we feel here. It has the mountains and the rivers and all the things that are good about Indi, and it was made by a group of people, and it's a wonderful sort of memento, really. So it was all fairly uplifting, and as I said before, it was a way that the brand became a way of coming out. Many new connections were made and existing networks were reignited around this shared purpose, and I think that's one of the things that created that real sense of solidarity and became such a powerful force. And it was just so energising, and I guess it was a hoot to be involved. We were all very conscious of the enthusiasm that was just exponentially growing throughout. I'm starting back at 2013. It just really grew and grew and grew, and it just the levels of excitement around that sense of hope and the possibility of change were like nothing else. I don't think any of us have ever experienced anything like that before. And it really just still, whenever the Orange is out for a campaign in Indi, we've had 3 now. It just feels like one big Orange celebration of democracy, I think. You know, and one of the other things that I wanted to mention was that the importance of inviting people to participate. So, you know, people will organically get involved, but it's really important to invite people so that they feel included, and you have to have the courage to do that. So, and you can use the brand and the fun associated with the brand to do that. So be brave and ask people to talk to you about what's happening in your electorate, and you just might be surprised at how just that permission to talk about this stuff and the sense of being safe will grow and develop into more and more people feeling connected to what's happening.
Another minute or so, Amanda.
Okay, I'll just quickly flick through the other images then, because they're fun to see. So we did, you know, we made the orange banners. So the Indi makers, a group of amazing people that just love making stuff. You know, anything we needed they would make, and they came up with lots of stuff of their own as well. But you can see here we had a big working bee to make these orange banners that were used multiple. They were used for both campaigns. But it's a fun story. The sewing was done by one group, the screen printing was done by another group, and then the eyelets were put in by some blokes that wanted to do things with hammers. You know, so it was a great collaboration to get that sort of stuff done. There's Kathy's first Indi van. I think the story is it's a 1994 Tarago. Sign writer didn't believe me when I said we wanted to brand this thing, and he said, "Oh, I could do it," but anyway, we did it, and it became, you know, a mobile billboard, a really powerful visual tool. Everywhere Kathy went was obvious, and I think because Kathy did so many thousands and thousands of kilometres, you know, it was really obvious that she was out there talking to people. There are a few other things that we use. I remember Kathy telling me she sort of the inspiration for the caravan came from you and Cameron or someone way back, didn't it, Kathy? So Kathy rang up one day and said she wanted a caravan. Could I find one? And we found one on eBay, and it didn't look like that, but it didn't take long to turn it orange, and that became another incredibly powerful mobile billboard. It was Kathy's mobile office, so it had a practical purpose as well. And you can see people, you know, if the weather was a bit ordinary, they could come inside and sit around. One of our wonderful volunteers made this beautiful red box table to put in there. Someone else made the curtains. Someone else upholstered the cushions. Someone else painted it. You know, and then it's always a team effort in Indi. Some of the other things, how long have I got, Jill? I'm probably still going.
A minute, mate.
Yeah, look, so we did postcards that were localised, so that's got a background of Wodonga, that's got a familiar sort of scene of buffalo. That was really powerful. It spoke to local regions within Indi, and there was a lovely warm message from Kathy on the back of that. This is skipping ahead to 2016 when the cockatoo symbol was developed, and I know Rob's in the audience. Rob Caroline has had a lot to do with this, but David Godkin, a local an art teacher, and was driving along one day, saw a flock of cockatoos, thought there must be heaps of those in Indi. That just, his brain worked in a certain way, and he suddenly thought, well, I can make cockatoos for this campaign, and he started making them out of recycled core flutes, and then people started wanting them, and that story is incredible in itself, but it's a really powerful story about how you can use something as simple as that to engage people. And, you know, during campaign time, you can look around Indi and you will see orange cockatoos everywhere, up trees, in, you know, all sorts of places. We now have orange cockatoo jewellery. It's a big and important symbol of Indi, and I think Helen's newsletter is called The Cockatoo now, in fact. And we even have our own Indi jeweller who makes silver cockatoos, and Helen wears a special one. I think it's made of gold and it's got teeth, gives her courage when she's in Parliament, she says.
We're going to have to wrap it up.
Yeah, badges. That's the round. I'll just finish with that round sticker there. It makes me think about what Anya was talking about with the top that she was wearing. We do this between campaigns so that we can keep the brand alive. So there's nothing there's nothing against the guidelines on that sticker. You can happily put that on your car and drive around, and it just keeps people in between campaigns talking about the campaign. Look, I'm just going to flick through lots of different images, and that's probably it. I could go on, but I won't.